Hello YouTube, and welcome to the next Microsoft Visual Basic 2010 Express tutorial in my series of tutorial, and I believe this is number 9. And in this tutorial I will be teaching you about loops. So in this tutorial I'm going to be doing the for loop, and this is the second time I've tried recording this. I completely messed up the first time, so just ignore everything on the screen right now, and I'm going to start over. And as you can see, everything's a bit bigger now. It's because I was having a problem with Cam Studio. It was just being a little annoying, and it kept crashing. So I switched over to Fraps, and I'm also having problems with my microphone. I have to keep checking to make sure that it stays in, because sometimes Windows won't even recognize it, and it'll seem like it's unplugged and it'll stop working. So that's another problem. Hopefully I can get through this tutorial without any problems. Let's go ahead and get started. So open up Visual Basic, go to File, New Project. That message won't pop up, and then come down, and we'll just name this one For Loop. Okay, so now we have our project loaded up. Go ahead and make the window a little bit bigger. Come over to your toolbox, add a list box and a button. So we can just go ahead and make it look a little bit nicer here. That's one thing that you really have to do when you're making programs. If you're going to distribute it, you got to make it look really nice. This is just for tutorial purposes, so it doesn't really matter how you make yours look, but oh well. Come over, select your list box, and I don't like the name listbox1, so I'm going to go ahead and name it list data. And then for the button, we're going to name it button for loop. So hopefully you can see that. You guys might have to go into full screen on YouTube because the text is so small, but this will be HD, so no worries with that. So button for loop is the name, and we'll come down here, change the text, change the text to for loop. Okay, now let's start making the code. Double click on for loop, and we're going to do something you should be very familiar with by now. We're going to declare int count as integer. So that's just declaring the variable, easy stuff. And then we're going to type clear list with some empty parentheses. Now this is a method that we're calling on. I haven't written the method yet, but we will do that after I do the rest of this code. All you need to know for now is that it clears the list, and the list is basically everything inside of this box. And that's going to be helpful because for the other loops that I'm going to be doing in the tutorials, we're going to be using the same box and the same project here. So that's always helpful to clear the list before you move on to the next loop. So we went ahead and cleared the list. We'll come down under that, and we'll start our for loop. So it starts off with 4, and then we'll do int count equals 1 to 8, and you can see it automatically added the next for me right down in here. That just tells the loop, once it goes through the code that's inside of this, it sees the next and goes back up to the top of the 4 and runs it again. That's why it's called a loop, because it just keeps going and going until a certain value is met or it is not equal to something. It varies for each loop. For a for loop, it is basically, if it is inside a certain region that you have set, it will do it, and then once it is false and it is not inside that region, then it will stop the loop. So basically we're going to do for int count equals 1 to 8, and then we'll do list data dot items dot add, and we'll do int count dot to string. So basically that just adds the variable int count to our box right here. And that's it for inside of this sub method in here, the button for loop that handles the click of this button. So now outside of this, we're gonna go, let's go down here. We're gonna make our method clear list, which obviously clears the list. You can see when you hit enter, it automatically adds the separator and end sub. So what we want to do is clear this list before we move on to the loop. So we'll just type list data dot items dot clear. Very simple, easy to do. That's why I love Visual Basic, because it's so close to English, and it's just insanely easy. Oh, and I forgot, add 2 empty parentheses right there. So we'll go ahead and run this, and then I'll explain the code one more time. So we'll run it, and it opened up perfectly. And when we click for loop, you can see that it counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when we do it again, it looks like nothing's happening, but it's actually clearing this box and running it over and over again. Okay, so now I'll explain the code, and then we'll be done for this tutorial. So I'll start off down here. First, we declared int count as an integer. Then we cleared the list. So far we have an integer that has no value set to it yet. And then we cleared this list right here, so there's nothing inside of this box. And then we started our for loop. So for int count equals 1 to 8. So this basically sets int count equal to 1, and then 2 means keep doing it until it gets to 8. And in for loops, whenever you're doing a for loop, for each time it cycles through the loop, it'll add 1 to your integer. It just automatically does that. It goes up 1 each time. It increments it. So for int count 1 to 8, list data dot items dot add. So basically we're adding an item to list data, and that item is the variable int count, which has a value between 1 and 8. Well, between 1 and 8, and it can be 1 or 8. So it's int count, and we just went ahead and converted it to a string just to be safe, because it's always good to convert any number or any data type that's not a string to a string before you display it on the screen. So we added the int count to the box, simple enough, and then it says next, which just says, okay, we've gone through the loop, now let's go back up to the top of the loop and start over again and just keep going through and going through, which is what makes the loop. So now back up to the top, clear list, the method that we call down here. We made a method that's private sub. You don't really have to know what that means yet. We called it clear list, and then list data dot items dot clear. So it just clears all the items out of this box right here, and then we end the sub. So go ahead, look over this code, practice it yourself, make a couple of programs yourself, get familiar with it, and then go on to the next tutorial. And don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. That's it. Thanks for watching.